Personality NLP Astrology Case Study for Hannah. Since Hannah has Shravana rising in Capricorn as her ascendant, she likely moves through the world with a quiet, composed authority and a deep inner commitment to meaningful learning, structure, and contribution. Shravana, ruled by the moon and symbolized by the ear, is the nakshatra of listening, guidance, and inner wisdom. Capricorn, as an ascendant sign, brings discipline, pragmatism, and a strong sense of personal responsibility. But with Shravana here, this grounded approach is infused with deep perception. Hannah likely moves through life as both student and guide, attuned to the lessons beneath the surface of every experience. Her presence is likely thoughtful, observant, and steady. Others may experience her as reserved but emotionally intelligent, someone who listens before she speaks and who often sees more than she lets on. There's a sense of refinement and self-containment in how she holds space, both for herself and others. From an NLP perspective, this ascendant suggests a dissociated and auditory digital processing style, combined with general chunking. Hannah likely observes and assesses before engaging. She needs to understand the structure of things, whether conversations, systems, or relationships, before fully stepping in. Her attention filter is primarily self-oriented. She evaluates people, experiences, and decisions based on their internal resonance, how well they align with her core values, emotional instincts, and personal logic. This makes her discerning and self-reliant, though at times she may come across as emotionally reserved or distant, especially in unfamiliar environments. Her motivation direction leans away from, not out of fear, but from a finely tuned sensitivity to emotional or energetic dissonance. She instinctively withdraws from environments that feel chaotic, unclear, or unprincipled. Also in the first house, Hannah has both the moon in Shravana and Venus in Uttara Ashada, both in Capricorn, further deepening her emotional processing, aesthetic intelligence, and interpersonal presence. The moon here adds emotional depth and receptivity, but in Capricorn and in Shravana, that depth is often wrapped in control and observation. Hannah may feel a lot, but express little, not because she lacks emotion, but because she's busy listening, integrating, and discerning. Her sensitivity is tied to insight. She remembers tone, patterns, and meaning, and she likely uses that memory to offer quiet guidance or hold space for others. From an NLP lens, the moon in Shravana supports a kinesthetic and auditory style. She feels her way through emotional situations, but organizes her experience through sound, memory, and quiet reflection. Her emotional radar is precise. She may intuit what's off in a room before anyone else notices. She doesn't always explain how she knows, she just knows. Venus in Uttara Ashada brings elegance, integrity, and emotional consistency into Hannah's self-expression and relational energy. Uttara Ashada is a nakshatra of victory through commitment. It's about truth, service, and inner dignity. Venus here makes Hannah deeply loyal in connection with a need for respect, reliability, and emotional honor in her interactions. She may have an understated charm, not flashy, but quietly magnetic. Relationships for her are sacred, not for distraction, but for depth and alignment. This Venus placement reflects a visual and kinesthetic processing style, with specific chunking. Hannah likely notices details in body language, tone, and pacing, not just of others, but of her own presence. She may prefer close-knit, emotionally clean environments, and is likely to be deeply affected by aesthetic or energetic imbalance. When things feel right, she invests fully. When they don't, she pulls back, not loudly, but completely. Altogether, Hannah's ascendant, moon, and Venus in Capricorn form a psychological constellation of thoughtful presence, emotional depth, and principled beauty. She is quiet but not passive, intuitive but not reactive. Her NLP profile in this foundational part of the chart reflects someone who leads from within, who listens more than she speaks, sees more than she shows, and feels her way forward with wisdom, structure, and grace. She's not here to perform, she's here to understand, refine, and align. Sixth house, Rahu in Punarvasu Gemini. In the sixth house, Hannah has Rahu in Punarvasu in Gemini, a placement that brings karmic intensity, mental agility, and deep pattern seeking to her daily work, routines, health habits, and relationship to challenge, effort, and refinement. The sixth house governs how we approach problems, structure our time, engage with tasks, and manage interpersonal friction. With Rahu here, Hana is wired to evolve through the mastery of subtle systems, particularly intellectual and communicative ones. She learns through complexity and often feels an inner pull to organize the unorganized, but on her own terms. Punarvasu, ruled by Jupiter and symbolized by a quiver of arrows returning home, is a nakshatra of restoration, realignment, and cyclical understanding. In Gemini, this energy becomes inquisitive, flexible, and mentally curious, driven to understand, communicate, and refine. With Rahu in this nakshatra, Hana's daily mindset is anything but routine. She thrives in intellectually rich environments where ideas can be deconstructed and reframed. There's often a karmic drive to solve, to understand, and to rebuild, not just in theory, but in the lived space of daily life. From an NLP lens, this placement supports a strong auditory, digital, and visual processing style paired with specific chunking. Hana likely breaks tasks down into logical units, with a drive to mentally map the terrain before taking action. She's an excellent pattern recognizer, able to spot inconsistencies in processes, structures, or interpersonal dynamics with uncanny speed. Her motivation direction here leans strongly towards. She's pulled toward order, synthesis, and cognitive coherence in her everyday routines. But Rahu's influence also brings a mismatching filter. She may instinctively challenge systems that don't make sense, questioning conventional norms around work, responsibility, or how things are done. Her attention filter in this house is a blend of self-orientation with active environmental awareness. While she evaluates routines and work patterns from within, she's highly attuned to intellectual dissonance around her. She may notice errors in communication, logic, or structure, not out of criticism, but from a deeper desire to rebuild better. She may find herself in work or service environments where her ability to spot what's off becomes part of her value. Rahu's placement here also means that Hana may not always feel naturally grounded in routine. Instead, she's learning how to structure and master the details of daily life. Her journey may include experimenting with different systems, bouncing between intellectual overload and discipline, until she finds a rhythm that supports both her curiosity and her nervous system. When she does, her capacity to serve through clarity, insight, and adaptable intelligence becomes one of her greatest gifts. Altogether, Rahu and Punarvasu in the 6th house gives Hana a service signature that is mentally brilliant, curious, and evolving. She's not here to just do work. She's here to reimagine it, refine it, and make it meaningful. Her NLP profile in this area reflects someone who processes tasks through logic and insight, challenges stale systems with precision, and moves toward mastery, one question, one refinement, and one thoughtful step at a time. 8th house, Mars in Uttara Falguni. In the 8th house, Hana has Mars placed in Uttara Falguni in Leo, a placement that brings principled courage, disciplined willpower, and quiet intensity into the hidden, transformative layers of her psyche. The 8th house governs deep emotional entanglement, psychological inheritance, intimacy, crisis, and the process of personal metamorphosis. Mars here gives her inner strength that is often invisible to others, a fierce resolve that activates during moments of intensity, pressure, or emotional exposure. She doesn't show all her cards, but when she chooses to act, it's focused, clean, and deeply intentional. Uttara Falguni, ruled by the sun and symbolized by the back legs of the bed, suggesting support, union, and legacy, is a nakshatra of responsibility, integrity, and long-term alignment. In Leo, this nakshatra becomes nobly assertive, carrying a calm but commanding presence. Mars here in the 8th house gives Hana a natural sense of emotional discipline and a desire to handle emotionally complex dynamics with honor. She's not reactive, she's resolute. Even in vulnerable moments, her strength often comes from a private code of conduct she doesn't compromise. From an NLP perspective, Mars in Uttara Falguni supports a kinesthetic and auditory digital processing style with specific chunking. Hana processes emotional and psychological intensity through embodied awareness, sensing where she stands in a dynamic before she moves. Her auditory digital layer ensures that her actions are mentally mapped. She doesn't explode, she calculates. Her responses are measured, principled, and often quiet but firm. She likely senses energy shifts in relationships or spaces and uses those cues to determine when and how to assert herself. Her motivation direction in this house is a powerful combination of away from and towards. She instinctively pulls away from emotional chaos, dishonesty, or psychological intrusion, particularly when boundaries are breached. But she also moves toward emotional truth, trust-based connection, and clarity, especially in intimate or transformative experiences. Mars here gives her the courage to face what others might avoid, but only when she feels safe and aligned. Her attention filter is mostly self-oriented, especially in moments of intensity. She checks in with her own emotional body and internal sense of truth before reacting. In close relationships or shared emotional spaces, she's perceptive but not easily swayed. She needs sovereignty, not just physically, but emotionally and psychically. Altogether, Mars and Uttara Falguni in the 8th house gives Hana a transformation signature that is steady, loyal, and internally guided. She is not afraid of depth, she requires it, but she insists on navigating it with respect, courage, and control. Her NLP imprint here reflects someone who processes intensity through awareness and principle, who holds power without needing to display it, and who transforms not through drama, but through integrity. 9th house, Saturn in Chitra, Virgo. In the 9th house, Hana has Saturn placed in Chitra in Virgo, a placement that gives her a disciplined, structured, and detail-oriented approach to belief systems, higher learning, long-term purpose, and ethical guidance. The 9th house governs philosophy, teaching, travel, and one's personal truth, and with Saturn here, Hana takes these areas seriously. She doesn't adopt beliefs lightly, and she doesn't teach what she hasn't tested. Her relationship to truth is built through time, refinement, and the patient dismantling of anything that doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Chitra, ruled by Mars and symbolized by the celestial architect, is the nakshatra of design, refinement, and visionary precision. In Virgo, it channels its aesthetic and structural energy into service, exactitude, and mastery of detail. Saturn in Chitra brings a slow-building but deeply intelligent faith structure. Hana may question early in life, or even resist authority figures or dogma, but over time, she becomes someone who lives by an inner blueprint, designed by her own experience. She's not here to follow. She's here to construct truth that is both beautiful and functional. From an NLP perspective, Saturn in Chitra supports a dissociated and auditory digital processing style with specific chunking. Hana learns through structure and discernment. She needs to break down ideas into parts, understand their mechanics, and test them against lived reality. She may not be swayed by inspiration alone. She wants philosophical systems that work, that have structure, and that align with her internal logic. Her belief system is self-authored, but built brick by brick. Her motivation direction here leans away from, particularly in response to vague ideologies, performative spirituality, or teachings that are all form and no function. She instinctively distances herself from philosophies that sound good but lack integrity or precision. Over time, this helps her build a quiet but formidable internal compass, one that others may trust because it's so clearly been earned. Her attention filter is strongly self-oriented. She processes ideas and teachings by comparing them to her own lived experience, moral code, and sense of energetic rightness. Even in academic or spiritual environments, she is likely the one asking the unspoken question, the one holding a quiet standard others may not even realize they're being measured against. Altogether, Saturn in Chitra in the 9th house gives Hana a truth-seeking style that is patient, refined, and built for endurance. She's not interested in easy answers. She's here to shape a philosophy that's both beautiful and functional, intuitive and exact. Her NLP imprint in this domain reveals someone who filters learning through precision, builds belief through experience, and ultimately becomes a quiet authority. One whose presence is grounded in internal clarity, integrity, and quietly earned wisdom. 10th house, Jupiter in Swati, Libra. In the 10th house, Hana has Jupiter placed in Swati in Libra, a placement that brings grace, balance, and expansive wisdom into her public identity, career path, and leadership expression. The 10th house governs reputation, purpose, and one's visible role in the world, and with Jupiter here, Hana naturally radiates quiet authority, principled optimism, and an innate ability to teach or guide through fairness and diplomacy. There's a natural magnetism to how she holds space professionally, not from force, but from resonance. Swati, ruled by Rahu and symbolized by a blade of grass swaying in the wind, is the nakshatra of flexibility, independence, and subtle mastery. It thrives in freedom, finesse, and calibrated motion. With Jupiter in Swati, Hana brings an adaptable yet principled presence to her career. She can flow with change while still standing for what matters. Her wisdom is relational and situational. She knows how to meet others where they are without losing her center. There's a refined intelligence in how she negotiates complexity, especially in leadership, mediation, or environments that require both structure and sensitivity. From an NLP perspective, Jupiter in Swati supports an auditory, digital, and visual processing style with general chunking. Hana likely processes large concepts, ethics, justice, long-term strategy, through internal logic and symbolic awareness. She may envision systems or dynamics before they fully materialize, making her excellent at forecasting, guiding, or managing nuanced interpersonal terrain. She leads with vision, but always checks for energetic alignment. Her decisions are not impulsive, but considered. Her motivation direction is strongly towards, especially in her public or vocational life. She is drawn to truth, harmony, and impact, not in a loud or dominating way, but through quiet excellence and consistent integrity. But there's also a mismatching layer here. Jupiter in Swati often questions convention, gently challenging norms that feel rigid or unjust. Hana likely seeks careers that offer both intellectual freedom and meaningful contribution. Her attention filter in this domain blends others' awareness with a deep internal standard. She listens well, observes social nuance, and adjusts her role accordingly, but she's not swayed by noise. She filters every opportunity and decision through what feels true, weighing fairness, long-term effect, and moral clarity. This gives her presence weight. Even when she's soft-spoken, others recognize her as someone who holds wisdom. Altogether, Jupiter in Swati in the 10th house gives Hana a public role defined by balance, ethical intelligence, and subtle strength. She doesn't seek status, she seeks alignment. Her NLP drives here reflect someone who leads through fairness, teaches through presence, and processes ambition, not through control, but through clarity. She's not here to rise at all costs. She's here to rise well and to bring others with her. 11th house, Sun and Mercury in Anuradha, Scorpio. In the 11th house, Hana has both the Sun and Mercury conjunct in Anuradha in Scorpio, a placement that infuses her long-term goals, social networks, and sense of contribution with emotional depth, intellectual intensity, and a quiet command of group energy. The 11th house governs one's vision for the future, connection to communities and allies, and how we move toward large-scale goals. With both of these personal planets here, in the emotionally intelligent and fiercely loyal Anuradha, Hana's way of participating in the collective is layered, private, and deeply purposeful. Anuradha, ruled by Mitra, the deity of devotion and alliance, and governed by Saturn, is a nakshatra of sacred bonds, perseverance, and emotional precision. In Scorpio, this nakshatra becomes even more attuned to energetic nuance, loyalty, and the unspoken truths that guide deeper relational dynamics. With the Sun here, Hana's identity is tied to creating meaningful impact through selective, powerful networks. She may not be outwardly social in the conventional sense, but when she bonds, it's intentional, and she often assumes a quiet leadership role among those she trusts. From an NLP lens, the Sun in Anuradha reflects a kinesthetic and auditory digital processing style with specific chunking. Hana processes the energy of groups through subtle, embodied cues, tracking what feels safe, resonant, or misaligned. She may step into leadership roles without trying to, simply because others sense her depth, steadiness, and emotional discernment. Her motivation here is towards long-term aligned impact, but only in networks that respect trust and shared values. Mercury in Anuradha deepens her communicative style, giving her a mind that is both investigative and attuned to energetic subtext. She's not one for surface chatter. She prefers conversations that reveal something real. Mercury here sharpens her ability to speak with emotional precision. She may say little, but what she says is considered, layered, and often potent. In social or collaborative settings, she likely notices subtext others miss and communicates with a kind of quiet power. This Mercury supports a dissociated and kinesthetic processing style with specific chunking. Hannah may spend more time listening than speaking, especially in group settings, but she's filtering every interaction for truth, resonance, and strategic insight. Her mind tracks emotional consistency as much as logic. When she speaks, it's often to clarify what no one else has named. Her attention filter here is dominantly self-oriented, though she's deeply tuned in to the group field. She moves in social environments with discernment, choosing where to invest based on depth and energetic alignment. She may keep her circle small but powerful, preferring quality over volume when it comes to alliances and shared pursuits. Altogether, the Sun and Mercury in Anuradha in the 11th house give Hannah a network signature that is emotionally wise, strategically clear, and rooted in deep loyalty. She doesn't seek approval, she seeks resonance. Her NLP imprint here reflects someone who filters social energy through precision, engages intellectually only when it matters, and quietly leads through unwavering integrity. She's not here for crowds. She's here for aligned coalitions built on truth, trust, and long-term purpose. 12th house, Ketu in Uttara Ashada. In the 12th house, Hannah has Ketu placed in Uttara Ashada in Sagittarius, a placement that gives her a profound, innate connection to solitude, spiritual withdrawal, and inner moral alignment. The 12th house governs the subconscious, dreams, loss, release, and transcendence. With Ketu, the planet of detachment and karmic mastery, positioned here, Hannah likely carries a past life familiarity with introspection, retreat, and surrender. She may naturally gravitate toward inner stillness, solitude, or subtle spiritual practices, not to escape, but to return to something essential and unspoken within herself. Uttara Ashada, ruled by the sun and symbolized by the elephant tusk, is a nakshatra of inner victory, legacy, and enduring truth. It's committed to dharma, truth that withstands time. In Sagittarius, this nakshatra becomes philosophical, idealistic, and oriented towards spiritual alignment. With Ketu here, Hannah may carry a deep, intuitive knowing of universal principles, and yet feel no need to display or explain them. Her connection to truth is private, steady, and often wordless. She may distrust overly performative spirituality or loud declarations of morality, preferring to live her values quietly and consistently. From an NLP perspective, Ketu in Uttara Ashada supports a dissociated and kinesthetic processing style with general chunking. Hannah likely absorbs spiritual or emotional insight as whole-body truth, sensed rather than rationalized. She may process profound realizations in silence, through movement, stillness, or symbolic imagery. Her learning and transformation often occur in private, behind the scenes, or in dreamlike or altered states of consciousness. Her motivation direction here is primarily away from, not in fear or resistance, but from a refined instinct to avoid emotional noise, superficial belief systems, or ego-driven performance. She instinctively distances herself from what feels spiritually inauthentic. In contrast, her towards drive emerges in the direction of spaciousness, simplicity, and internal congruence. She moves toward environments and practices that allow her to dissolve, rather than define, the self. Her attention filter is deeply self-oriented, not in a self-centered way, but in the sense that all truth must pass through her inner compass. She is highly selective about where she places her energy, particularly in spiritual or emotional contexts. Others may perceive her as elusive, deeply private, or even hermit-like at times. But beneath that is a soul that is always listening, always clearing space for what truly matters. Altogether, Ketu in Uttara Ashada in the 12th house gives Hannah a deeply internalized, emotionally sovereign relationship to spiritual truth. She is not interested in preaching, she is interested in embodying. Her NLP imprint here reflects someone who processes experience through detachment, reflection, and wordless knowing. Someone who clears space not for performance, but for presence. She's not here to be seen in spiritual terms. She's here to disappear into what's real and emerge only when it calls her name. Overall NLP drives for Hannah. Hannah's NLP profile reveals a personality structured around emotional refinement, inner sovereignty, and precise principle-driven presence. With key planetary placements in Shravana, Uttara Ashada, Punarvasu, Swati, Anura, Mrigashira, and Ashlesha, spanning Capricorn, Gemini, Libra, Scorpio, Leo, Virgo, Taurus, and Cancer, Her internal wiring is both grounded and perceptive. She is a listener, a calibrator, and a quiet architect of order. Someone who doesn't just process experience, she filters, clarifies, and integrates it with intention and grace. Her dominant processing styles are auditory digital, kinesthetic, and visual. Auditory digital shows up strongly in her Saturn in Chitra, structured learning and internal logic, Jupiter in Swati, harmonized vision and fairness, and Rahu in Punarvasu, pattern tracking and language calibration. She learns and acts through mental reasoning and symbolic synthesis. Her kinesthetic intelligence is equally developed, especially through the moon in Ashlesha, emotional sensitivity, Mars in Uttara Falguni, embodied discipline, and Ketu in Uttara Ashada, spiritual knowing. She senses truth in the body. Visual processing complements these through Venus in Uttara Ashada and Mercury in Anuradha. Her mind tracks symmetry, tone, and aesthetic precision in what's spoken and unsaid. Her chunk size alternates between specific and general, depending on the domain. In emotional and interpersonal contexts, like work, 6th house, intimacy, 8th, and collaboration, 11th, she leans towards specific chunking. She notices tone, timing, body language, and energetic shifts with sharp discernment. In philosophical, spiritual, or structural areas, like truth, 9th vocation, 10th, and solitude, 12th, she processes in general chunking, drawing from deeper principles and archetypal wisdom. She sees both the fine print and the whole pattern, and knows when to use each. Her motivation direction is a refined combination of away from and towards. She moves away from disorder, emotional volatility, insincerity, and hollow systems, often with swift internal detachment, Rahu in Gemini, Ketu in Sagittarius, Saturn in Virgo. But she is clearly towards alignment, toward truth, trust, beauty, and internal congruence. She seeks emotional depth, intellectual integrity, and environments that are energetically clean. Her movement is precise, never random. When she moves away, it's to make room for what feels right. Her attention filter is primarily self-oriented, yet attuned to subtle interpersonal energy. She evaluates decisions, relationships, and actions through her internal compass, not external pressure. But this doesn't mean she is disconnected. With placements in Shravana, Ashlesha, and Anuradha, she picks up on the emotional atmosphere around her with quiet sensitivity. She may not speak to everything she senses, but she notices it all. Her orientation to others is grounded in respect and discernment, not performance or people-pleasing. Her action style is a blend of internally timed reactivity and deliberate structured proactivity. With Mars in the 8th and Saturn in the 9th, she doesn't rush into anything. She waits for alignment. But when clarity strikes, she moves with confidence, conviction, and restraint. Her decisions are well-filtered, emotional but not impulsive, principled but never rigid. Her learning preference is solitary, somatic, and internally guided. She absorbs wisdom through silence, internal integration, and private synthesis. Whether she's working, studying, or leading, she needs spaciousness to reflect and recalibrate. She thrives where she can observe first, speak later, and engage in ways that respect her sensitivity and inner rhythm. Altogether, Hannah's NLP drives create the profile of a quiet strategist, someone who builds clarity from within, speaks only when it matters, and engages with precision rather than performance. She doesn't seek noise, she seeks resonance. And in every environment, she filters for what is real, what is meaningful, and what is energetically true. Her power lies in restraint, discernment, and presence, not in being seen, but in seeing clearly.